This thing. There you go. Okay, cool.
Live.
So you're going to start with the same way we started the box, making a slab of clay, 1/4 inch thick. But these cups, we like to make a little thinner than 1/4 inch. See the example here is a little thinner than 1/4 inch, so I'm going to use the sticks and then I remove the sticks and roll it one more time. You'll need enough clay for the template and a little bit for the bottom. You probably don't need a piece this big. And some of you guys are getting good enough to roll out slabs without the sticks. My clay's a little soft, so it's sticking to the table. Okay, so that's 1/4 inch, and then I like to remove the sticks and do one more roll. You're going to be picking up a cup, so I think it's kind of important that they're not too heavy. Okay, I got plenty of clay for my, and plenty of clay for the bottom. So we do this project all at once. We don't have to wait till any pieces get leather hard.
Sweet.
So if you don't finish today, you'll keep it in a bag and finish tomorrow. Cool. So there's a couple different ways you can stamp your clay. You could first maybe trace the outline and then have it organized. So like a row of stars, a row of moons, a row of, or maybe you can go around like this and frame it, make it all organized. You can make it kind of random. So a lot of these cups, I just used all my stamps and just stamped it and then cut a piece out. I like to use nowadays, not so much random, but just one stamp also looks good. So the same stamp used everywhere. But before you stamp, you want to smooth the clay. There's a couple tools you can use to smooth. You can use your finger, or this metal rib is my favorite. And some of your stamps, you haven't used them yet, so when you use them, if you don't like them, you just make another one. Okay. Sometimes if you use the same stamp over and over, it starts to get a little wet and sticks to the clay. So you might need to take a second, let it dry. These dry really fast. So I'm not just pushing, I'm kind of like wiggling. Sometimes when you push, it also sticks to the clay, and when you wiggle it, it releases. Okay. Make sure it's not stuck to the table. Yep. Should have set it on a dry area. Do that now. Okay, so cut it out. All right, so if you haven't been paying attention, you probably can figure out what I've done, but you definitely want to be able to see and pay attention to this part. So if you haven't. So we're going to cut this right out right away when it's soft. The top and bottom, we're going to cut at a regular 90-degree angle. So top and bottom, 90-degree angle. Now, 90-degree angle this way. Doesn't matter which way it goes this way, it's still going to cut. Except we're not going to do the 90-degree angle on the sides. We'll make a 45-degree angle or a beveled edge. So I just hold the blade and I lean it over, and when my hand hits the table, that's the angle I'm going to use. And it's important that it's the same on both sides, so that's why I use my hand as a guide. And so this edge at an angle. And the same angle over here. And the whole idea is that when we fold it together, these angles as they come together are gonna make a nice strong joint, and there's not gonna be any overlap, not gonna be thicker. We all like good strong joints, is that why you're laughing? So far so good? Cool?
Yeah.
All right. Cool, so after we're all done, we wanna make sure that it's round on the top so that our lips don't get hurt. Also, corners chip off, so if you're like stirring up hot chocolate or whatever, you don't want it to chip. Also, the corners don't look nice. They don't look natural. And so this is what I'm talking about. This is gonna be the top of the cup. If we make the cup and then try to make it round, it's a lot harder than making it round now. So there's kind of two ways to do that. I forgot the water. You can just take a little water on your finger, and you're gonna dumb down that sharp corner. I use that term a lot, dumb down. When something's sharp, when you make it not sharp, you're dumbing it down. That right there is the second thing most people forget that's super important. So the two things, beveling the edge and making this smooth. Don't forget it. Okay, so another thing that when working with soft slabs, you want to try to only touch it when you're doing something to it. Try to touch it as least as possible. So you notice I haven't picked it up. You don't want to pick it up, flop it down, pick it up, move it around. Try to be very gentle with it. So we're gonna have to do that same thing on the other side when I flip it. But before I flip it, I'm gonna scratch where it's gonna be attached. And I did it very organized. I went like that, and I'm gonna do it like that. So when they come together, they almost like form like a zipper. Really strong joint. Make sense so far?
Yeah.
Cool, so I'm gonna flip it over and do the same thing. Yeah, the camera goes really wide. Before I flip it, might as well put some water on it. Cool. Now I'm very careful. I don't flip it using the beveled edge because I don't want to mess up that thin part there, so I make sure it's clean and nice and gentle. So now I could scratch this side, now that I can see it, water it, and dumb down this corner now too. Oh, I was going to show you another way. So you can use your finger with water, or if you want, you can use, if you don't want to get water, just use your plastic bag, and your finger slides really nicely along the bag. You could probably do it with no water and no bag, but this is a little easier. And then after we make the cup, you will probably have to go back and make sure it's smooth. Ready for the hard part? So the hard part is picking it up and folding it. We're going to use these to help us make it round afterwards. So I like to have the bottom, sorry, the top be the bottom when I fold it. So I'm going to pick it up, the top is going to be on the bottom. So when I fold it, you can see it touches like the table there, and then it touches kind of everywhere. If you pick it up and fold it, it touches these two corners, and it kind of bends these two corners. After you do something like this, I've probably made over 100 cups, just like this. You start to get nice and refined, and so that took me like 20 cups to figure out. Okay, so I'm just gonna pick it up. I'm gonna use the table. You don't want to do this like up in the air. I see people trying to put it together. Use the table, and it doesn't matter if it's round or not round now. So I'm just gonna pinch them together as far down as I can pinch with that hand. And then I'm gonna flip it over. Nice and gentle. You gotta have to have a kind of a touch. And now you can see how easy it is to zip that right up. Push it together, then kind of pinch it. I can't really touch all the way down there, so I'll use a tool to support the inside as I push it together. Yeah. We're not gonna smooth out the seam on the outside. Kind of want to show the process of how this is made, kind of like seams in our clothes. So I'm going to leave the seam here. I'm also going to leave the seam from the bottom one. That's what I like. If you do want to smooth out that seam, it ends up smoothing out the stamps also, and sometimes it doesn't look as good, but it's up to you. You do want to smooth the inside so that there's no crack for your orange juice to get stuck in. And the very top here, the seam I smooth out. And I can come back to this a little bit later when it's a little more stiff to smooth it. Now for the fun part. Okay, so this is gonna help make it round. So you can see it's not round at all. So these are round. You're not gonna push down, you're gonna just push inwards, and you'll see the gaps. You can see there's no gaps now, it's round. I put it bottom down first, you'll see why in a minute. And then I do this side second. You can also use tools if you do have to push out like a little area. It looks like that needs to be pushed out. Yeah, makes sense so far? So far so good? Cool. Okay, whoops, I picked it up for no reason. That's like something could have went bad. Hello? Oh, okay. Wish I could go. So we're going to scratch and attach the bottom on. So now that it's upside down, it's easy to scratch. That's why I did this side second, so it would be one less time I touched it. The bottom here, we're going to not cut it out yet. We're going to put it on here and then cut the extra out. So I like to scratch it everywhere, one direction. And then I go and scratch it the other direction, kind of give a pattern. So when you're finished drinking your water, you can see kind of a cool pattern. Anyways, okay, a little water. I do this first. I do it round and round to get it wet, but I'm also going like this to give myself like memory, muscle memory, or brain memory, I don't know. So that when I go and put the water on here, I don't have to like trace where it's gonna go. I kind of know what that feeling is. That makes sense? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. I do like to go back and give it a little scratch and gently set it on the bottom. And you can give it a little twist and wiggle. Sometimes they're crooked, so I can straighten it out. Yeah? Cool. So I like to cut it not flush with the cup. I like to leave a little bit extra to show the process. Also because it's easier than cutting it flush. Also when we glaze this, it's easier to wipe off the glaze. If there's a little extra, when you wipe it, it'll just wipe that extra and not wipe your cup. Or if your glaze drips, that little extra will stop it from like ruining the piece. What's nice about working with soft clay is if you're done and it didn't come out right, you can just take it, smash it, roll it up again and start over. It's a lot easier. Okay, we're not done. We still got to sign the bottom, which I'm going to wait till it's like this hard. So this one was done first period or second period, and now that it's nice, a little bit stiffer, it's easier to sign my name. It's also now the time I can go back, and if I need to smooth even more, it's a lot easier to smooth when it's leather hard. Cool. What we are going to do is going to push the bottom up. We don't want this to wobble when it is on the table. If you leave it flat, when they shrink, check this out. That's how much it's going to shrink. That's a lot. So sometimes when it's flat, when it shrinks, it warps. And then it wobbles on your table forever. Which is kind of cool, maybe. Have a little motion. So I'm going to pick it up. I'm gonna just use my hand, my palm, to just push it up a little bit. You'll also be able to glaze up there too, because it's only gonna set right there. And then I wanna dumb down that corner so it doesn't scratch my table. Making sense? Yeah. So I'll wait a little while before I sign it and maybe clean it up a little bit more. So I'm not sure if I should keep this one. Oh, I see a little bit of a, needs to be pushed out there a little bit, right?
Either way, if my cup doesn't come out correctly, I could just use that as something else.
Yeah, these will be nice flower vases too. You can hit the red button.